Hey, it's TeeRants again, here to talk about something that I think is very, very important at this juncture in our country, the United States of America. There's been a lot of talk about elections and rigging elections and things like that. And some of you may believe that it happens, some of you may not believe it happens. But I think that it's actually pretty obvious. And why do I say that? Well, when you've got people that are literally trying to have people removed from the ballot, isn't that rigging an election? I mean, should we let the people decide? Now, I understand in the United States of America, people like to call it democracy. Honestly, in all actuality, see, I didn't necessarily sleep through all of school growing up. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic. Now, if you want more democracy, get out and vote. It's that simple. But that isn't that simple because, I'm not here to advocate any particular candidate for the president at this point in time. That's not what I'm about to talk about. What I'm going to talk about is the actual process and the individuals involved. In other words, me and you. If you don't think there's election rigging going on, you're not paying attention. Let's this is the one that I think is most blatant in your face. Well, let me back up for a second. I'm sorry. What is important right now is that you understand that there is manipulation going on, both in government and in the public. There are people trying to control what you think, what you do. They're trying to stir up division because as long as we can't get together and agree as a public at large, the general public, as long as they keep us fighting and disagreeing, then they can control what goes on because there's no one group that can make a decision together and invoke change, real change for good reasons. And that's what is really going on, okay? So I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent. I don't care what your race is. I don't care what your creed is. The fact of the matter is, if they can keep people arguing, then they, the proverbial they, can do whatever they want to. And that is their tactic. They are trying to manipulate the public so that they can do whatever they want to unhindered. So what we really need to do as a general public is instead of finding things to disagree about, we need to find things that we can agree on. There are real topics out there that need to be addressed. Let's go with one that maybe isn't as delicate as other things. Inflation. Inflation is happening. I kind of knew it was going to happen when they started handing out money during COVID. Personally, we needed it. My family needed it. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Was it going to cause inflation? Yes, it was. But let's face it, inflation doesn't mean that prices have to go up. They like to tell you it does, and they like to tell you that it has to be done this and that and the other. But the truth of the matter is, all it really means is there's more money in circulation. Now, When I was growing up in school, they talked about, it's because of supply and demand. If there's more of something, it's worth less. If there's less of something, it's worth more because it's harder to get. Okay, I get that, but let's face it, they don't have to gouge. The reason that inflation is becoming difficult for people to making it more difficult to live, and always has, is because of greed. If people weren't gouging, there would be more money and more prosperity, and it would be spread more far and wide, and people could get their hands on money and be able to live comfortably without all the stress, and that's not what they want. So there's the wealthy, right, that are going to have a bigger vacuum cleaner than the rest of us. They get it out, there's all that money out there, and they start sucking it up. How they do it? Well, they raise prices. They didn't have to raise prices. By the way, shout out to Ryan Reynolds for his new commercial he's been doing about lowering prices, trying to go against status quo, lowering prices on his cell phone company because he's going to do something different. I don't know what his motive is in there, really. I'm not in his head, and I've never met the guy. I can't make that call. Perhaps he's just hoping that he's going to suck up market share while everybody's raising prices, which is great. That's how a capitalistic society should work. It's competition. People competing in a that's, I don't know, more like a sport or a game, rather than just taking advantage of people. This is one of the times that I would like to mention that I think that all these people, these ultra rich, hey, props. You're living the dream. But the fact of the matter is this: there comes a point where you've got to be part of the human experience, and you need to figure out how to sew back into society so that it helps level the playing field. So, in other countries and stuff, that's kind of how the communist revolution started, where became such a big gap between the ultra wealthy and your average person, and they got pissed off, and they have a revolution, and now. But the thing about it is, in my opinion, communism is a great idea, but that's all it is. It's too idealistic, and even at the end of the day, you wind up with the haves and the have-nots. There might be fewer haves than have-nots because there's just a few people that are in a position of political authority that are placed to administer the fact that over the rest of the general public. And so, but those people generally live better than your average citizen. And once again, it just comes, it's all a function of greed. So my shout out is to those of you that are in that position to be able to do so. Don't gouge. Let the money flow around. You're doing okay. I used to hear the joke that life's a game and he with the most toys at the end wins. It's nice to live comfortably and have the things you want. But at the same time, at the expense of somebody else, that becomes a bit of a moral issue. Let's face it. This is something I've kind of joked about, but there's an underlying truth. Jeff Bezos, for those of you who don't know who he is, he's the guy that basically is the emperor of Amazon empire. That guy could give away all his money. And guess what? People would go on Amazon and buy stuff, and it would just come right back to him. These people that have all these revenue streams already in place, they can spread the money around. I have this in a little bit in another video where I'm talking about the fact that there was a guy I was listening to. He was talking about money as a concept and helping people understand it. And does this example where he brings people up on the platform. He's speaking publicly, and he has them bring an object. He pulls out a $5 bill and hands it to somebody and says, "Okay, now buy something for somebody else." Because they've all got like a tablet or like a notebook, a pen, a pencil, something out of their purse, something like that. And he turns around and he buys something from someone. And it's kind of like the old thing about the one red paperclip where it changes hands, it goes around, and then he says, "Stop." He says, "Okay, where's the $5 bill?" The $5 bill is still there. Someone has it. Goods have exchanged hands, but the $5 bill is still in circulation. There's no reason for prices to go up because of inflation. Prices go up because of inflation, because of greed. Okay, and there comes a point, and I'm just going to make a shout out to the people that are comfortably wealthy. Don't do that to people. Okay, there's a moral obligation to not, and you'll live better if the money flows, instead of you sucking it all up and putting it in some sort of lockdown, like some blue chip stock or something that makes you richer and richer and richer at the expense of the general public. So these are the things that maybe we should think about. I personally, there's the healthcare issue, and they keep talking about it. The Clintons tried to do something. Obama tried to do something. But at the end of the day, to me, this is my opinion, the Clintons was kind of a power grab. Because they had stuff in their bill that made it so that if you wanted to go to a doctor and get a second opinion, and you were wealthy enough to pay the doctor out of your pocket, that was a felony. That was a control grab. That was them trying to control the public and hand that power over to someone else. Who that would be, I don't really know. But it was. It was a power play. Now, then there's the Obamas. Basically, their bill just handed over immense amounts of power to insurance companies, and they're the ones that they got money. They have money. There's the pharmaceutical companies that are out of control. How many ads on TV right now are pharmaceutical ads? Do you enjoy them? I don't either. It's just annoying. It's like I really sat down to watch a show or something, and they're going to interrupt me and talk to me about stuff that I don't really care about. I mean, they've got a drug out there for everything now. Stuff that it's like, I'm sorry, when they start talking about stuff you've never heard of, and they're gonna treat it for you. Come on, these people are just trying to make money, and then they've got to go through the insurance companies with the Obama bill, and they basically created a way, the pipeline for the money to go back to the pharmaceutical companies, the insurance companies, everybody. So there are real problems, okay, real problems. When they're stirring the pot by creating racial division, let's face it. If we're all equal, let's say you're some sort of a minority. Now, with the term minority, the meaning of it has changed a lot. I think that the United States has actually come a long way, whether the people want to admit it or not, getting a lot of the discrimination and such under control. Getting to the point where people are not satisfied with that. They want to tip the scale. They want the power grab. But let's face it, that's not going to help us either. It's not going to help us in the long run. What we really need to do, if we're all created equally, then let's be that way. Quit worrying about that. Quit focusing on that. I had another video that I've done. Maybe some of you have seen it. Maybe you won't. I don't know. I hope you do. But it's talking about the entire subject of racism, that it's just completely ridiculous. Let's just live. Live and let live. And get on with trying to get things under control that need to be under control. And quit squabbling amongst ourselves while they steal our country. Who do I think is the biggest offenders? I think there's two things going on. One, let's face it, the United States of America has become government of the corporation, by the corporation, and for the corporation. It's a way that they can amass numbers of people to influence what's going on in such a way that they are having other people do their bidding. The people that sit at the top of the corporations, they've got gobs of people working for them. And then they turn around and they have the gall to call us consumers. We're not consumers. We're the producers. We're the people out doing the work. They're the ones that are being parasites. That's what should concern people. When a corporation has more influence over the government than the people themselves, that's a problem. At risk of being labeled a conspiracy theorist, there is this whole deep state thing, okay? There are people that function as part of the government, the intelligence agencies and such, that are not elected. They're kind of out of reach of the general public. The government likes to pretend they don't even exist and that they're not functioning in and amongst us. But there are people, and if you can't see that, then you're not paying attention. There's something that people should look at. It's long, but sit down and watch the movie JFK. What happened to that man, and why? Who did it? It was so important to someone to keep it quiet. They did, and they've done it for 50 years. You can't say there's not stuff going on that needs to be known by the general public. You can't say that there are not things at work in our society that are kind of beyond our reach to some extent, unless we organize, which that's why they don't want us to. They don't want us to band together and say, okay, time out, stop. All right, so if the TeeRants giving you enough to think about, ponder on, or even cuss about, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're going to ring that bell, make sure your notifications are turned on your account, or you won't even hear them. Thanks. And we're back. Let's get down to what really matters and create a land of opportunity with a level playing field. That's what we should be putting our heads together and figure it out and make it happen. We can't be bigger and among ourselves. We should probably start with some of the bigger subjects, which is some of the things I've talked about just now. how to get the corporations under control, and them using their money to influence the government so that they're the only ones that have an advantage. And it's not, it's like these corporations are made up of huge amounts of people, but it's a small amount of people that are controlling that and the interest at large. So let's think about this, people. Let's get real for a minute. Everybody start to think about what's really important. And that's for every man, woman, and child in our country to have a real opportunity. All right? And one of the things that they're doing to make that difficult is taking the money out of our hands. And there's lots of it out there now. They're dumping money into the economy all the time, but then they're sifting it back through various means. This whole thing about the interest rates, they don't have to raise interest rates. Why do they raise interest rates? Because the banksters are just calling their money back. That's what it's about. They're sucking the money back to them. It's the haves preying on the have-nots. They're not doing it for the benefit of the country. They're doing it for the benefit of them. It doesn't have to be that way. So let's think about how we're going to go about living and letting live. Being a nation of equality and opportunity, equal opportunity. People talk about these things, but it's not really happening. Come on. Look around. Smell the coffee. Let's get together and get our country back. Just remember, just because you don't know what I'm talking about doesn't mean I don't know what I'm talking about.